My next series is going to be a 6-book interconnected standalone series. Any tips for standalone series? So when it comes to doing a standalone series, you want to make sure you have crossover elements. So even if your main characters are going to be different, so that every single book has a different lead person, you want to see some crossover elements. These are within your world building. These are within your characters. If you can have crossover characters, that is really important. Have appearances by other characters. Now, I did an interconnected series where it was all around one storyline. This is my Holiday Court series. It's one story told from 6 different perspectives. They come together, they go off on their own missions, they come back together, but you see all those characters from the other books. You can do that. That's fantastic. That'll help you sell, and that will sell well. If you're doing it so that it's entirely unconnected, but like takes place in the same town, you need to see consistent elements so that drugstore down the street that one character goes to must be brought up in the next book. Just in passing, it doesn't have to be a big thing. Then in the 3rd book, maybe it's a really big important thing. Then after that, maybe it's just a footnote again. It's okay, Jem. And so you want to make sure you have interconnected elements. If it is a clock tower, you want to make sure people are seeing that. You can take your conversations and have them happen around that. You can have them in different locations. So somebody's real close to it. A story takes place real close to that. The next one, it's in the distance. It's what they see in the very far distance. You can come up with world building, interconnected things that you see on repeat in these stories. Touchstone elements that people will recognize. Characters are even better. So if you have a main character and they have a best friend, that best friend can then have their own spin-off of their own spin-off book, or they can be a friend. They can be somebody in the store that they run into. They can be all sorts of ways to be seen inside of those books. So you want to have those interconnected elements, things that people are going to expect, the touchstones. It's very much like having like when you're doing a retelling, the original bullet points of the first book, the original story that you're retelling, you will have to have show up inside of your retelling. Consider this your Bible, your staple. So the things that happen in the first book have to, at least in some way, show up in the interconnected books. So the subsequent books must have references to them. They must see the same things. They must speak to a person who was in the other book. Show that it is consistent. And if it is something where it's like more fantasy, where there's like 100 years time has passed and now we've got the next story, you have to show the kingdom elements, the world building magical elements, things that are going to be the same. And you have to be very clear about that. And the more you can shove it in their face and be very clear that this was something that they remember from the last book because of XYZ, the way that somebody interprets something or the way a character interprets something that they're seeing or experiencing, you bring back those notes so that people remember those things. Having those touchstone elements, make sure that those things are then connected and actually make sense inside of a series and not just random standalones that you popped into a series and said, it's a series, buy through it all. You have to have that familiarity there so that people can recognize it as they are reading through and say, yeah, it feels comfortable. It feels like something I understand, something I know, depending on whether you are very, very close with those characters that you're just seeing in all the same circles or you're just doing the world building. Some ways of connecting it have to be done in order to have those conversations and make it part of a series.